Peace family. So I'm back with another one. Today what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk to my chosen ones about how your fruits will always hold more spiritual weight. Your fruits will always hold more spiritual weight. And I've been doing some deep diving this week, and I was kind of in some kind of confusing situations where I also had to use my fruits of my life to remind me of my steps that I've actually taken and walked versus what's being projected to me. And I realized like a lot of us have to go through this and experience this, and it's nothing out of the ordinary, which we've all experienced, you know what I'm saying? So, because I know for me, like, growing up, the quote-unquote new title that's being used is gaslighting, you know? So when you grow up in a household of that shit, you kind of, it kind of leaves a bad condensation on you, but you know how to manage your energy and your recollection and how you like to time travel to the past and what you actually remember. So a lot of beings out here will have you in these places where you feel like you don't really recall what happened, or they may have said so many words that it kind of got you mixed up in what you actually do remember when you try to actually time travel back to that space to recollect what happened. But the reason why I say your fruits will always show is because when you go to time travel back to that space, even if you get confused or foggy in some of the areas where they are involved at, you have to take yourself back to the space to where before they was in the picture, and you can remember and time travel into that space to where your fruits was showing. They're always gonna show. You wouldn't plant a seed and not reap what's there if you're putting the time and energy into it. So with understanding that, you have to know that a lot of beings out here is going to want to put you in a confusing state and in a confusing space, and your fruits are always going to be a lot stronger. When you've grown up or experienced this a lot, from young to middle to older, like, your fruits hold so much weight. Like, nobody would be able to tell you that that's not your apple tree. That's your motherfucking apple tree. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's the fruits, here's the fruits, here's the fruits. Well, and then some beings will try to even twist your fruits and make it seem like, that wasn't really an apple, that was just a big cherry or something. You know, some weird shit. Or they'll twist it and point the finger at you and make it seem as if you're just solely talking about yourself, when really you're just using your fruits to not be in a confusing state. A lot of beings out here that's not operating and vibing with the greater good, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna want to have you in a confusing state, in a confusing place, or just the easier space to manipulate your energy. So once you've been putting down the groundwork for so long, or for however long you've been doing it to wherever you're at in your journey, you are gonna have to reach back in your bag and use that motherfucking fruit. For me, the hardest part was putting the groundwork in physically, you know, back then, because it's different between watching and learning something. Well, even before I've watched and learned something, I'm just in situations experiencing it. My energy is in motion. I'm trying to figure out how to process everything, you know. It's a lot going on while you're in the game at the time. But once you take enough time back from the game and you start to study this shit a little bit, so that way you can start coming up with better results. You know, you may not win every game, but you don't want to keep losing by 20 points. You know, by the next week or the next time y'all play, you should only be losing by 10 points if you still, you know, putting in that consistent work to eventually, boom, you know what I'm saying? You done got them in the game. you have to stay consistent in it. So that's where the fruits come in at, and the work that you put in at. So for me, it's like when I recollect and I time travel back to anything prior 5 years, I can pull all the situations where I've been around other beings and they gave me energy, and then I was able to start opening other avenues, and a lot of situations where I gave beings life and energy, and then they started activating and doing some other things. Whether they continued or not, it didn't matter. It was just the fact that it got activated and they had the energy to do it. You know what I'm saying? So, excuse me, this weather is changing crazy out here. But your fruits, being able to go back in your bag and pull your fruits out when somebody is trying to tell you you sold them a bad fruit or you gave them a different kind of fruit, you have the physical proof and the spiritual proof of your fruits. So if I pick up a leaf right here, you know what I'm saying? You may have a different word for it, but this is leaf. You're not going to tell me that this is something that's edible, that's going to be beneficial for my vessel right now. I wouldn't believe it. You could tell me that, but that's the kind of places that some of these beings will want to put you in or keep you in, is in a confused state. You know what I'm saying? So when you are out here dealing with beings and they're doing things like this, because they either want to see you confused, frustrated, or angry. You know what I'm saying? Once they start getting these little emotional portals open, it's easier to start pulling you whichever way they feel they would like to pull you. So that's why I always say it's important to use your fruits. Your fruits are very strong. They're very valuable. That's why you planted it. That's why you took the time to put the work in. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna put the work in for it and then not use it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the whole purpose. If you have to use it to pull strength from it, you do it. If you have to use it to pull some kind of another experience or some kind of more knowledge from it, you do it. But it's your fruits that you harvest. So now you can experiment and do whatever you want with your fruit. It's your fruit. So some people, when you start doing that, when there are people that's not trying to be clear and they want to be confusing or manipulating with their energy, they will also try to point the finger, and because now you're talking about your fruits and things to kind of help pull strength because somebody was trying to put you in a confused state. Now this is their opportunity to say, oh, now you're being narcissistic or you're being demonic, when it's not the same thing. When you don't have the same intentions behind it, and when you're actually using your fruits to pull strength from because somebody is, or a being or a collective is trying to put you in a weird energetic space. That's why we put the work in and do these things, So for me, I wouldn't play basketball my whole life and then not discuss it or talk about it with other beings. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't cut grass my whole life and not talk about it and discuss it with other beings. So that's part of the process. When you've been doing it that long, you're reaping the fruits from that physical part as well too. So along with the spiritual part, we already know that's connected, but I use physical representation, so that's why I rephrased it that way. But your fruits are extremely powerful, especially when you planted extremely healthy fruits and you got strong roots for that tree, so it's gonna reproduce each season. When you got strong roots on your fruit, it's gonna reproduce each season. Some fruits don't be as strong, and some roots don't be as strong, and then you gotta replant and redo your process. But the thing is with that is you can always redo it, and that's why we always have these different transitions in our life, and why we'll continuously have these different transitions in our life, and why it's better to just be more prepared for it. especially when you understand there's a war going on out here and they're doing everything they can to manipulate our energy and to lower our vibration, to distract us as much as possible. Because a lot of us, we're in a space now to where the only thing you can do is really distract us or call us narcissistic, which either of those two is really gonna work. It may have a small slight effect on some beings, but for the most part, we already done put the groundwork in. You don't even have to be in the camera to say you done put the groundwork in. It was a lot of shit that I done that it wasn't in front of no damn camera, that I know spiritually where I stood at. Didn't have to be, me teaching now. A lot of the teachings come from just being able to be in a lot of experiences and then have the knowledge and then knowing where the knowledge and information is coming from, So I ain't want to run it up too long though. I just wanted us to be aware that our fruits are extremely strong and powerful, and you may use them however you like. Some people got an apple and they just want to eat it whole. Some people get the apple, they want to slice it. Some people want to make apple cider with it. Some people want to make apple pies with it. You know what I'm saying? But it's your fruit to use it how you want to. So if you in a situation and somebody's confusing you and you start pulling all your fruit out and throwing it out, and they like, wait a minute, you're talking about yourself too much, or it's now it's bothering them. You know what I'm saying? Because now you're using your fruit because somebody was putting you in a confusing state. So now you're showing all these recipes and everything that you done whipped up with your shit prior to them, before putting you in that confusing state. So that you're a clear being. That's what we have to do, is emphasize being clear. We want as much clarity as possible. I don't give a damn if it's your mom, dad, siblings, your spouses, peers, friends, whatever titles you want to put on them. But we have to start being as clear as possible, and don't duck the elephants in the room. You know what I'm saying? Because that's going to lead to more confusion, which is going to allow them to dictate the energy a little bit more. So you might as well go ahead and get it out the way. You know what I'm saying? But tapping everything down below. Peace and love to the kings and queens.